Hello, hello, hello. I think you can hear me. I'm currently chatting with that. It's either IPS or L or lowercase LPS. I'm not sure because it's impossible to tell because of the font if it's an uppercase I or a lowercase L. But hello on PureTube, yes. Um, to answer your question, yes, I am using a single OBS stream that is going out to PureTube, Owncast, and Restream.io, and then Restream handles Twitch and YouTube, so I can have at least Twitch and YouTube unified chat. Yes, thank you, Pinecone. You can hear me. Yeah. So, but I am actually monitoring 3 different chat windows. I'm monitoring the Restream, which is Twitch and YouTube combined, and then PureTube and Owncast as well. There, unfortunately, you can't merge the PureTube and Owncast ones. So, yeah, no, it's even a little bit more complicated than that because I want to make sure that because this computer is doing a lot, right? There's a lot of moving parts in this stream. So I want to make sure, because I'm running Linux and it's a little, OBS and plugins and stuff can be a little bit crashy. So I want to make sure that it's stable. I'm not having the computer that's in this room actually do the streaming. I'm sending it out on an NDI stream to the OBS instance in my office. And my OBS instance in the office is the one that's actually doing the streaming. But all it's doing is taking an NDI feed and streaming that out. So it's a lot. There's a lot going on. I need an assistant, and I thought I had one, but he's decided to just go away. Just whenever you're on screen, Yeah, hi everybody. Puppets, huh? Yep. Building more puppets, like every week. But of course, like every week, starting off with a nice coffee, because we are into the warmer weather, it is of course iced coffee. So having a relatively low key, trying not to be too frantic this week. It's the last week of the month. I've got one build planned. It's a fairly involved build, as you're about to see. But it's still like it's all stuff I've done before, so it's relatively low pressure, and it's for the shop. It's not for a commission, so it's kind of like just whatever I feel like doing, which is the way I like it. I mean, I like doing commissions too. It depends on the commission, of course, but this is the fun stuff for me. It's because I get to just sort of be creative and build what I feel like building, so that's nice. Yeah, with chatting with folks on PeerTube, that's cool. And it means the PeerTube chat is working, and thank you for confirming that for me. Because it wasn't for the longest time. It turns out it was entirely my fault. And it was my fault because I didn't read the documentation. I should know, being a Linux person, or DFM, but anyway, hope y'all are doing well. I got a lot to get through, so I should probably just go and make the puppets be building and stuff. And my brain, I'm telling you. I know I say this every week, but yeah. So we're doing the thing. And so what we're building today, let's just go to the pup cam. Oh, of course it's not working. Oh, something's gone wrong. Hang on. Of course, everything was, I tested and tested and tested, and now something on BitFocus Companion is not connecting to. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. Oops. Hey, look, it does actually work and everything is fine. I was pressing the camera to go to the face cam scene rather than the top down. I don't know what is wrong with my brain, but it's broken. Okay, anyway, we are building a eyebrow mech furry rod arm monster. That's the project for this week, which I usually would do more than that in a week, but like I said, I'm just trying to be kind of cash. This here, that's the sun. That's what's coming in through the window. It's very bright out there. Let me see if I can move the curtain and get rid of that. Is that better? I got the fan going because otherwise it would be 1,000,000 degrees in here. That seems better. Okay, good. Wow. Yeah, when I got up this morning and I was just checking the cameras, there was just a beam of sun coming in through the split in the curtains that was hitting this camera. That's the puppet cam, as you can tell, was like directly in the lens, and it looked just like it was solid white. I thought the camera was broken. I had no idea what was going on. It was because there was a beam of sunlight just hitting the lens exactly. It was something. Okay, so here's where we are. So I built the internals. I'm probably going to put some boning. This is the body insert. I'm going to put some boning in here at some point. I don't really want to do that right now because I don't want to get the mask out because that will involve Marge. Hello, Jamie. Yes, hello, Jamie, and hello, Pinecone on Twitch and YouTube, respectively. MakerTube seems like a great... Yes, I've heard good things about MakerTube. I debated going to MakerTube before I decided to spin up my own instance. But yes, I've heard good things about MakerTube. I federate with a couple of folks on MakerTube as well. Corey Artis, shout out. Yeah. I'm getting distracted. Puppets, huh? Dude, look how yellow this is. I've had this foam for a while, you could tell. And you can see there's a good example of how yellow it gets. Because I just cut this hole yesterday, so you can see the difference. Foam gets yellow. But yeah, so I've got the hands. These hands are going to be a bit different than normal. Normally when I do a furry rod arm monster, I do the floppy finger, Grover style fingers. But this one is going to have internal structure, but I'm going to do the arms fleece, which is a bit different. Could you peer with MakerTube to get your videos on there? If anybody like follows me from their instance, so MakerTube is like a whole instance of YouTube, and they have several channels as opposed to mine, which just has one, me. So I'm pretty sure a couple of people there already do. Giddy Stitcher, I think, federates with me as well. So yeah, my stuff probably does show up there. I haven't actually checked, to be honest, but if anybody follows from their PeerTube instance, my PeerTube instance, then the videos get distributed and federated. So yes, good thinking, and yes, I'm pretty sure that's already happening. Although I probably should check at some point. And then I don't know what I do about it if it's not, because that's an opt-in kind of situation, right? So the first thing to do with this, so I've got all the internals built. Here's my brow mech. I've shown this off before. This is where I've landed on this as a kind of permanent solution. So it's a bit of a hybrid. At first, when I was doing my 3D printed brow mech, I was trying to do the whole thing 3D printed, including the eyeballs. That's the part that didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. It was going to be fine. What I had was a kind of, I don't think I have any printed. Oh, maybe I do. I'm not going to dig it out. It was kind of a shell that had a coupler on the back. But the problem is, because when these go onto the skull, they kind of need to be spheres. They can't be like a tube with a rounded end, because they're not at a 90-degree angle. They're kind of angled in a weird way. And that's what makes the spheres work, whereas a tube with a rounded end is very awkward, and it doesn't allow the brows to blink properly. So I've ended up, and also, you know, because I have a PLA filament printer, you always get layer lines, and you do a lot of work to get rid of the layer lines, but these are already like smooth spheres. So I just use the ping pong balls, and then what I do is I drill the holes, and then I cut a slit, and I kind of socket them around you can kind of see. Just socket them around this, and then I make sure that I glue this bit in the back. And so we have the best of both worlds, basically. It's a little, you know, it's got perfectly smooth action, as it were. But I got the perfectly smooth surface. Everything is nice about this. This works the best out of everything that I've tried. So there we go. LPS probably show up there. Yes, I follow from my own. Yeah, there we go. So power of the Fediverse right there. So the next step, now that all these internals are built, sometimes I do a lower jaw. This is the lower jaw mouth plate right here. Sometimes I do a foam lower jaw, but a lot of the time in fur, you don't really need it. And it's actually kind of nice without, because it gives kind of a floppy profile, which is nice. So I might end up doing a foam lower jaw. I might not. It depends on how it looks. What I do want to do, my idea right now is I want to do kind of big buck teeth, but I need to make sure that we have a good overbite. And this overbite, I mean, that might be enough, but it also might not. And it all depends on how this goes together. Usually I do a kind of loose hinge, so there's a gap between the upper and lower mouth plates. But if I do too much of a gap, that's going to close the overbite. So I need to make sure that when I do the hinge here, it's very tight. So I'm going to try and aim to do an overbite. If it doesn't work out, then I'll do something else. But that's where we are with that. So the next step is to get the fur prepped and sewn. There's going to be a whole bunch of machine sewing and possibly some hand sewing as well on this stream. That's where we are. Like I said, that's what the build streams are. It's just me doing my daily work at whatever stage I'm at of the game. So I got to put all this stuff aside, and I've already traced the pattern on the fur, so we'll get the fur out and start cutting that out, and go from there. And we'll just move this over. Let's put this. You take care of that, Kermit. I never have enough room. This is why I need to get like big like Swazzle, so I can actually have a shop as opposed to a spare room. Okay, at least I've got a spare room. So anyway, yeah, like I said, I've traced the pattern already here, which you can, again, this is how big this is, right? I can't even get it all on camera. I'm doing this a bit, not really different, but I often do it like this, but this is an efficient way I have found. I've kind of married two patterns here. I've taken the head pattern that I usually use and then a body pattern, and I'm doing it all in kind of a single piece. Well, two pieces technically mirrored, but it's like the head and the body are a single thing. There's no, like, I'm not gonna have to sew the neck on, for example. And I like doing it this way because A, it's really fast. And B, it's just like a sort of unibody seamless thing. So I like that a lot. And all I really did, and I do this a lot, whenever I do my patterns, I can even show you this. I don't mind showing patterns on stream, whatever. Please don't steal patterns, etc. So here's the head pattern. And you'll see it is a separate piece. So often I'll do it like, I'll do this in fleece or I'll do something else. So I want like a separate head and body. And here's one of my body patterns. And this is a kind of unibody. This is very Grovery, is the way I think of it. It's a narrow torso and a little round belly. And this is the dart that gets joined. And then I got a little sleeve on the bottom here, but even that's part of it, right? I don't have to sew that on separately. It's just part of the whole structure. But I'll build patterns so that they're kind of modular, so you can kind of fit them together. So this doesn't have to go with this, but it will, right? If I just put those together like that and trace them, then now this is a single piece, and that's what I've done here. These are just two patterns that I've married together, and I do this a lot. Whenever I'm designing patterns, I kind of think ahead, like I'm gonna wanna use this element in multiple places, so I'll make sure that it's compatible, just size-wise. And with heads, it's really easy, because it's just the neck. It's the aperture of the neck that has to join up with whatever, so. It's not complicated, but I just try and make sure that everything kind of fits together. And it gives me more options. right? And that way, if I get, a client coming to me and saying, can you do like this head with this body or this type of head shape, but this other type of body, I can be like, yeah, no problem. I can just put them together like they're transformers, like just like modular, not transformers, that's the bad example. The good example is Micronauts, but nobody knows what those are. So if you remember Micronauts, shout out in the chat. So to cut this out, the correct way is to use a razor blade. What you want to do, this is another repeat lesson from every stream ever. But what you want to do is you want to cut the netting, the backing that's in the fur here, but not the fur itself, right? So you don't want to go chunk like that and cut the fur. You'll only want to cut the backing. Best way to do that is with a razor blade. I have found that when you get fur right from the manufacturer, like this stuff is, there's stuff called sizing that's on the back, and it's got like a stiffener. You can get rid of that with one wash. I don't really have the option to do that where I am. So a razor blade actually has a tough time going through this backing. It's a real struggle to cut a razor blade on this fur unless you've removed the backing or the sizing. And I can go through like 3 or 4 razor blades because it just dulls them really quick. So rather than that, I usually just do it with scissors. You can cut fur out with scissors, but you do have to be careful. You have to do little snips and make sure you're only cutting the backing and not the fur itself. But if you can do that, then scissors are perfectly fine. That's the thing. You just don't want to cut the fur length, right? So I've developed quite a muscle memory for it, so I can go. But I'm just doing little tiny snips. It's all good. And you see, so there, I've only cut the backing and the fur retains its length. Is there a rotary cutter for fur netting? No, I would say that's tough. That would be even tougher because it's like a pizza cutter, right? So you need to put downward pressure as well as across, and that would be cutting the fur. I can't imagine a rotary cutter that would work on fur. I mean, it would probably work if you're very, very careful and have a very, very light touch, but it's probably more effort than it's worth. But that's the point of a rotary cutter, is it just goes flunk and just does one solid chunk. I've got a couple of rotary cutters. I used to use them a lot. I found that I just don't. I don't know why. This is how I tend to do everything now. It's just like these literal scissors do everything. If I'm cutting fleece, I'll use the bigger scissors, so I can do kind of solid lines rather than doing little snips. On fur, the little snips don't matter. On fleece, you see the little ragged edges. So just gonna get it started, get one edge into there. And snip, 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 snip. And you do kind of want to pull them out and then reseat them, because otherwise you are going to get fur kind of jammed down. And no, it's not quick. If you want to do something quick, pick something other than puppet building. This is a heck of an angle for my wrist. That doesn't feel good. Jamie, that makes more sense. I was thinking wear like a Dremel add-on. Oh, right. Sorry, I thought when I hear rotary and cutting, I think rotary cutter, like this, right? Oh, I don't even have a shape in my head for what a Dremel tool that would do this would look like. I can't imagine using a Dremel in any capacity on any fabric, just because the fabric is so like mushy and movable. Interesting problem though. Let's get Adam Savage on it. If anybody can think of a solution, he would. Yes, I'm kind of going inside the line a little bit. I want to make sure that the mouth isn't too big because I want that tight hinge. So, wow, this is really not doing good on my wrist. This is the problem with having a very small work surface. If I had a big table, I could just move this stuff around, but as it is, I kind of have to, you know, it's not easy. Very frustrating when you have to work with big swaths of fabric like this. There we go. Oh, I should point out, so the reason the pattern's like this, so we've got a seam allowance, this is a seam allowance right here, but there isn't a seam allowance on this line down to here. And the reason for that is because when we glue the skull in, we're gonna need to turn it, and this is the hole through which we will do that. This is going to get hand stitched, this whole section here. And this is the bit in the back that we close up by hand, which is the least fun part of this entire process. It is, let me tell you, ladder stitching fur, closing up a back seam like that, possibly worse than making hands. Possibly. I think I like it less than making hands myself, as partly because I've done a lot of work in building stuff that helped me make hands without so much fuss. Hand plates and so forth. Hooray for the 3D printer. Yeah, you might need to be stretched in a form for it to work best. Yeah. If it wasn't fur, I would say yeah, probably. But yeah, you would definitely need to like stretch it on the rack. What I love was seeing Swazzle. They have a laser cutter, and they'll cut everything with that. I don't think they've cut fur. I don't remember seeing them cut fur with it because, again, it would just go through the entire thing. But they've got, like, they cut foam and fleece, and it's just these perfect, like, oh, it's so good. Joe, I try to avoid ladder stitching for as much as possible, maybe a baseball stitch. Yeah, no matter what, like, it's just the fact that it's fur, right? Because it's just, the fur is just going to get everywhere. This is why they shave patients before surgery, right? It's just, the fur just gets everywhere. It's just, there's no good solution. Jamie, for cutting and woodworking or framing, the nomenclature is eat the line for cuts that need to be to the right of the line or leave the line for added allowance. Well, now I know. We should come up with puppet-specific terms for those. Hello, Demon Dreamer. Nice to see you. LPS on PeerTube, are there some kind of electric shears that exist? Oh, there sure are, and they would be impossible to do this with because, once again, you're cutting the entire surface. And with this, you are only cutting a very specific substrata, as it were, of the surface. So, yeah, there are electric shears that will just go zzz through the whole thing, and that's, you can't do that with this. You got to cut just the surface. I'm going to switch around. I'm going to switch around the cameras because the camera that I'm currently using is the overhead camera. Actually has quite a decent zoom. Whereas the camera I'm using for the close-up camera is just a GoPro. and doesn't. So I think I'm going to switch it around so that this camera up here, because as you can see, if the autofocus will work, which of course it won't. Oh, there we go. Like that's a pretty good zoom. I think that would be more useful as the close-up cam. But that will involve a whole lot of work in not just physically to move the cameras around, but also in setting up new OBS profiles, because the way these, I've got, there's a switcher and there's 3 webcams and there's a whole thing. It would be a lot of work. It would be like a weekend's worth of work, but I think it's worth doing. I tend to use the close-up cam way more than I anticipated. We're about to use it when I go to the sewing machine, in fact. One of those powered carving knives that ruined many a Thanksgiving. You mean? Like this? One of these? You know what these are great for? Foam. Big chunks of foam. Big foam blocks. This is what you do the bulk carving with. They're super useful. For that and for that only. Don't cut a turkey with it. Why would you do that to a turkey? I do. I have it all, including many things I don't ever use. I just got in case I need it. When I was setting up, I kind of went, "Ooh, I should get one of those and one of those and one of those," and then. I have a Vacuform machine that I never ever use anymore because I got a 3D printer. All right, there we go. There's one. That's how long it took to do one. Also because I'm yakking, you know. We'll just put that over there. Now that, do it again, but not before coffee. Is that night for when you decide to do a carved and flocked foam Miss Piggy for your Kermit? No, that will never happen. Oh yeah, flocking, no thanks. Flocking is a lot. Yeah, to do flocking for real, I mean, for real. What does that even mean? Yeah, you can do small scale flocking quite easily, which is some, you know, spray adhesive and basically like a flour sifter. But to do like a big surface, it's a lot. You really do need the electrostatic gun, and that's like hazmat suit time. You want to use some car headliner spray adhesive? Oh, you mean like like this? He's doing it again. Just name a tool, I probably have it. Love the spray adhesive. I use it quite often. He does have it all. Oh, Joe, I've held one of Miss Piggy's ears before. Flocking feels weird. Wow, that's super. A, what? You did what? And B, neat. Yeah, I'll bet it does feel weird. Probably the place that most people have encountered flocking, or at least are aware that you could cite an example, is in model railroad building. A lot of the times the grass and like the plants and bushes and things like that, those little miniatures, those are often flocked. Patrick, good morning. Nice to see you again. David, do you remember if it's similar to the old flocking toys of the 80s, like My Little Pony? Probably, yeah, those were flocked too, you're right. So you were even better, a Gonzo head. Gonzo? Actually, no, most Gonzos, at least that I'm aware of, were not flocked. And are not flocked. They are a combination of a carved foam and carved and dyed foam, the nose, and then the back of the head is just fur, and then they're just glued together. But Gonzo is not typically flocked. And when you see close-ups of, like, you know, some of the original Gonzos, you can tell. You can see the pores in the foam. Whereas when it's flocked, you don't see that. Flocked actually looks kind of like fleece. It's all fuzzy. Excuse me, my allergies once again. My whole head is broken. So what you say is Gonzo is on the table. I mean, Gonzo wouldn't be impossible. He's just really difficult. Like, it's one of those situations where, like, conceptually, yeah, I could do it. But to get it right, to get the proportions right, because it's carved foam, right? There's no pattern for that. You just have to carve it and hope you get there. You can make kind of a cross-section sort of pattern, but that's really just a starting point. You need the carving skills, like literally the sculptural skills to do it. And it's the kind of thing that if you don't get it exactly right, it's going to look wrong, right? Because we all know what Gonzo looks like. Just think you get the big tiny wingtip shoes, yeah. Or I could just buy infant shoes, or, you know, I ain't no cobbler. It's funny how many of the Muppets, like, often will have like saddle shoe, like Oxfords, like what I like. Beaker wears them too. Well, I'm sure after I'm done this, much of this green fur I've got left here is going to be useful. There's not going to be any big solid pieces. We'll see. Future Sonk puppets. Oh, excuse me. I'm telling you. Finally knuckled down, I'm going to get a requisition from my doctor to do the blood test to figure out what it is I'm allergic to specifically, so we can take steps, because it's not good. Let me tell you, folks. Yes, it's the old men complain about their health portion of the show. Did you get your scissors sharpened? Thank you, Sal. No, I did not. I still have it. It's a matter of just finding the time. That would involve leaving my apartment. Why would I ever do that? I do leave my apartment almost every day, but it's to go to the gym, which is in the basement. That counts. Actually, I have to leave today because I gotta go take a puppet to the post office. I sold a puppet to Singapore, and I'm pretty sure that may be the first one. I sold a furry small. I know I sold to Thailand. I sold to Japan. Just trying to think of. I don't think I've ever sold to China. I'm not even sure that I can ship to China, so. I mean, I imagine that there would have to be so much trade that happens to China that I can't imagine that there aren't shipping options, but I don't know that my tier of Canada Post actually offers them, so. I don't even know where I can ship to just because Canada Post is just kind of hooked into the API, so. It tells me where I can ship. Okay, there we go. There's our two halves all cut out. So now we pin them together, or clip them together in my case, and then we sew them up. I'll move the darts second, so we'll clip these together first. And as always, we want to make sure that we're getting the fur out of the seam. Get our clips here. How much is shipping overseas? Oh, a lot. For the small, it was not bad because it's small and light. So I think it was like the tracked packet. I don't offer any shipping tiers that don't have tracking. If you want to like ship it without tracking, it's not that much. But I don't do that. I did that once, and that was the only time I've ever had something go missing. So I do not offer shipping that does not have tracking. And I think the small was about $32 to Singapore, which is not bad. Now, the size matters a lot in this case, because I know for a fact that something like Greebly, like, you know, in one of the larger boxes, or a Live Hands Monster, that can get quite pricey. Like up, depending on how quickly you want it to go, up into the hundreds of dollars. International shipping is very expensive. Thankfully, I've never had anybody like lose their mind on me about shipping because they understand that it's nothing I can control. Like this isn't me setting the shipping prices. This is literally Canada Post, and that's as cheap as it gets, so. Hi, Leia. I was seeing first, so even if I hate doing it myself, I can start using those clips instead of pins for better accuracy. Pins are actually more accurate. These are just quicker. But on fur, since it's not as important for accuracy, that's why I prefer them. It really depends on what I'm doing. I'll also use clips on fleece if I'm doing like a hand or I'm just tracing rather than going along the edge. I'll also use the clips to just join the two halves together, but clips are just faster. Pins are more accurate. And the more you use, the better off your line will be. Oh, hello, Jimmy. Jimmy is here. I left the door open. Shall we see Jimmy? Let's see if Jimmy wants to come up and... Hi. Did you wake up? There we go. There's superstar Jimmy. Hi. What am I doing, right? You don't... This is not how we do things. Nope, 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 not good. Okay. But people want to see you on the internet. Look. Yeah. Hi. I'm busy. I'm working. You don't care. Jimmy doesn't care. Jimmy wants his daddy time. Okay, buddy. Sit on your bench. He has a little bench. He literally does have a little bench in this room. I have to. I don't have an option. Jimmy has to have a little throne. Joe, I need to start making my own neck sleeves. Puppet Pelts stopped selling the ones made by Swazzle Puppets. And the other company is an Etsy shop in Canada. It took over a month. Yeah, I think I know the people you're talking about. I mean, I'm a puppet maker in Canada. Of course I do. Yeah, well, neck sleeves aren't hard, though. Neck sleeves are, I mean, it's just a tube. You know. I think, Joe, if I remember correctly, you don't use a sewing machine, right? That could be your motivation to start, because let me tell you, a neck tube on a sewing machine is like that. No problem. JP should have a camera pointed at the bench. It's down on the floor. It's right next to my puppet monitor, actually. Here, let's see if we can... Hang on. I don't know why we're even doing this, but this has nothing to do with puppet building, but let's see if we can get the close-up cam. Here, there we go. There's Jimmy's bench. There's my puppet monitor. There's the camera. There's the computer running the build stream. Huh? There's the fish tank. Yeah, there's the 3D printer. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, all I need is another camera on this setup. That'll be fine. Hello, Ozoned on Owncast. I do, yeah. Owncast agrees. I do need a Jimmy cam. He's not always in here, and he's particularly not in here when I'm working with, glue and stuff. He's only allowed in here right now because I don't have the door closed, because I'm not going to need to work with dangerous chemicals. Ozoned on Owncast. These are always important, and are we all really just puppets and cats? It's true. You're not wrong. I really want to do a cat puppet, but cats are kind of odd for the puppet form, or for the Muppety puppet form that I usually do, because their mouths are so small, right? Muppet style puppets always have big mouths, and there's that's because you're doing this, right? And that doesn't really fit with the cat head shape very well. They have big craniums and small mouths. Maybe I'll think of something that works. All right, so this bit here, this seam from here to here is what gets hand sewn. Rod puppet cat. I really should get on that. I've been scrambling so hard to get the shop stocked up again. There's a whole bunch of stuff I want to do, like new things that I haven't done before, and rod puppets are on that list, and I have some ideas for how to do like 3D printed parts for them. And yeah, I know there are some out there already on Thingiverse and whatnot, but I would need to at least do like alterations to them and a custom version of them, because I need things to be rugged, I need things to last, I need things to not break, stuff like that. So Um, but I've got some ideas, but I just never have the time to implement them because I'm trying to scramble to fill up the shot. I do need an assistant. You're right. Ozone, I learned I'm puppet shaped. It's a small head, big mouth. You're Muppet friendly. You're in good company. All right, we were almost ready to get the machine out here. I am going to clip this together, even though this isn't going to get sewn on the machine, just to sort of keep it tidy and out of the way, rather than have it flop around loose. Go down to Tyrell, put the puppet on the machine. I'm also going to do the darts on the machine. Just because it's fur. I never do darts on fleece on the machine just because I'm really bad at it. So they always end up with weird corners. But on fur, it doesn't matter because it's fur. You lose all the definition. Fur hides all sins, it's true. Quite an active chat today. We've had all of the platforms represented. Excellent. Love to see it. Okay, so there we go. We're all clipped together. I'm also gonna, after I do these, I'm gonna take it off, and that's when I'm gonna do the darts. It will just be a little bit easier to do it with this when it's all flat. We'll do the darts second. So, gotta get the machine into position, and because we're on the machine, I'll get the close-up cam set up here. Hopefully that still works. Another reason I need to rework how the mechanics of the build stream work is because I don't actually have a preview of my cameras before I switch to them anymore. Long story, but I should be able to get that back. So I don't know what the camera, the close-up cam is going to look like until I switch to it. And I'm seeing it live. Okay, here's the machine. Just get the pedal out from being buried here. Always, there's just a big pile of stuff next to the work table. Okay, let's go. It's shaping most sins. Yes, it's true. Where are we at here? Okay. So, turn that on. This is definitely not a good angle. Let's see, we're going to be coming off this direction here, so that's this. Let's try that. Unfortunately, this means that the fur is going to be hitting the camera base as it comes out of the machine. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. This could be completely disastrous, but hey, why not? Why not try something disastrous? You're still here. Hi. Jimmy is still here. Yes. Hi. Yes. Okay. No, I shouldn't have been talking to him. Now he wants attention. Sit on your bench, buddy. Oh. Oh. So many allergies. Probably to cats. I have no doubt. I've never had allergies my entire life. And in the past 2 years or so, I've suddenly developed them. which is unusual, but I also think it's another wonderful side effect of the diabetes. Old men complain about their health. Here on the Puppet Pit. I forgot to say welcome to the Puppet Pit again. I keep meaning to say welcome to the Puppet Pit every time I cut to the face cam. I'm bad at branding. Oh no, JB's quoting Blade Runner. The Twitch chat. We are on the machine. So looking, I guess you can kind of see what's going on there. Not really. Although we move it over here. What does this look like? Nope, that's bad. It's such a weird problem to try and solve. Patrick, I'm a little behind in the stream, but I used to collect Micronauts as a kid and as an adult. Nice. Micronauts were great. And weird, too. Like, they were just deeply weird. We did have some weird toys in the 80s. Remember, well, there was Stretch Armstrong, and there was also the one that was like, he was like a He-Man type figure, but his chest was invisible and you could see his organs. And if you pressed a pump in the back, his lungs would move and you would see like fluid moving through his intestines. These are the toys we had in the 80s. Is there any wonder we turned out like we did? Well, I might have trouble going through fur impressive. Yeah, well, this is good old Heavy Duty Singer, right? This is among the reasons. And also Heavy Duty, this is a denim needle as well. Yes, some machines will struggle to go through fur. This where I'm going to solve get a good camera for the sewing machine, good camera angle problem. This isn't too bad. I think you can kind of see what's happening. Okay, there's one side. We'll trim off the excess momentarily. There's also the vacuum Stretch Armstrong, where you could pump out the air and it became all lumpy and posable. Okay, I do not have a memory of that. It's like the opposite of stretching. Aren't physics wonderful? Uh-oh. Vac-Man, okay. Hey, remember Vac-Man? Everybody else, no. Oh, it was in the 90s. See? The generational thing. Remember, I'm old. Like I don't constantly remind you people. All right. There's one seam in the head. Yeah, that got a little folded up. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It's just the seam allowance. Oops, you know what? I'm sewing the wrong one. Ha ha ha. This is the hand stitch line. Good thing I caught that now. Don't sew that up. I'm gonna have to pull that stitch out. Oops. Yeah, I was streaming and not paying attention. Now Leia is coming up with things I've never heard. I don't know what is probably since Leia's in America, it's pronounced Z-bot. Of course, here in Canada, we pronounce it Z-bot. I don't know what a Z-bot is. I still remember the Transformers versus GoBot wars. It was the beta versus VHS of our time. Okay, so now that we're here. Yes, Jimmy? I don't want to roll too far back because you're sitting right behind my wheels again. Like you know you shouldn't. Yes. Trouble. Nothing but trouble. Now I'm going to clip together the darts and do the darts. And then we will trim. Yes, Jimmy? Yeah, I know you're still here. I'm being yelled at by a cat. Jimmy, I had a GoBot before. Either show debuted in North America, and then GoBots decidedly lost the Transformers / GoBots war. It's true. Now, weren't the GoBots just like American ripoffs of Transformers? I'm pretty sure Transformers came first, didn't they? I don't remember. I missed that. That's just a generation past which I was interested in those. Got the kind of age group of toys. Yes, Jimmy. Hi. No, you can't. You need to get up in the lap just for a minute. Just for a minute. Come on. I'm clipping to get. Look, Jimmy is here again. This is, believe me, this is how I work a lot of the time. Look at this. This is literally it. A lot of the time, and I'm sewing like this, and this is, you're seeing behind the scenes right here. This is how it goes. Hi. Yes, I love you too. You just want internet attention, that's all. Right? Yes. GoBots came first, technically. It's a bit complicated. 1983 versus Transformers 1984. Interesting. That is genuinely interesting. I did not know that. I would just assumed that GoBots were ripoffs of Transformers. You see? Never assume. You're going to have to go in a minute, buddy. You're not making this easy. Yes. Yes, I know. Allergies, you say? I can't imagine why. When Hasbro bought Tonka, they also got the rights to GoBots. Oh, it's Hasbro. Okay. That explains everything. Okay, well, he's now laying down on my lap at least. That's an improvement, but in some ways it's not because you're even more in the way now. I don't want to get fur all over you. Other fur. Green fur. Ah, yes, Hasbro, the Nestle of toy companies. Is there any way we can make this less ethical? All right, James, you gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go. Trouble. Nothing but trouble. Okay. Oh, you know, I didn't do the dart on the top of the head. Let's do that first. That's important. And also awkward. Make sure I get the threads out. Sew those down into it. So after this, after I trim off the seam allowances here, then I got to cut out the mouth plate and hand stitch that in, or do the arms. Maybe we'll do the arms, and then we'll call it a stream. All day, all this talk about GoBot, ZBot, have you ever made a robot puppet? I have not, because everything I do is soft body, so, you know, a robot would be, in theory at least, could or should be rigid. Although, you could probably do a soft body with straight lines and stuff. But that is, you're kind of leaning more into a mech with that kind of thing, and I'm not heavily into mechs. The eyebrow thing is probably my limit, but I would, you know, just to do something I haven't done before. Okay, I'm gonna do this extremely awkward. That looks great, doesn't it? It'll be fine. This is the dart on the top of the head, and it is the worst. So I'm just going to get this out of the way, put to bed. You go slow, it looks like a mess, but it actually isn't. Oh, you know what I should have done? It's too late now. I should have trimmed off, in fact, it's not too late. I will trim off the seam allowance just for this little bit right here. That will make this considerably easier to navigate. I'm just going to trim off the seam allowance right there for the front of the face. And there, that tidies up this line quite a bit. Robots would be good for marionettes. Yeah. So SciShow Kids actually has a robot mouse puppet that they use. And it is all kind of rigid, like plastic hard body construction, but it's quite good. No idea who did it. But it would be an interesting challenge because you think of things like, you'd probably want the skin to be metallic in some way, just to kind of drive home the point that it's a robot. But then that means you're using a fabric that probably isn't stretchy, which adds a whole layer of complication. It's an interesting challenge. Okay, there's the top of the head seam. Done. It's not great. It'll do. It's fur. Hides most sins. And now we're doing the 2 side darts. I'm so self-conscious of my accent when I say any word that's like an A-R-T. Dart. Dart. Pronounce the A, Kevin, not dirt. Okay. That's 1 dart. Uh, and I wonder why you put cigarettes in puppet heads. We'll give you some smokes, eh? Oops, that one got a little bit too close to the edge there. All right. So there we go. That's all the machine sewing. In fact, it's a little bit too much machine sewing because I gotta pop the seam that I sewed by accident there. But let's switch off that. We'll go to this because I'm just going to be trimming off the seam allowance and then we're going to be doing the hands. So let me just get that back here. Move that out of the way. I am now covered in green fur, of course. Jimmy is actually sitting on his bench. Let's see. There we go. See? There's Jimmy. More popular than I am. Of course, he's a cat. See, because Middle Ontarians call cigarettes darts. I did not know that. And I live here. Well, I don't live in Middle Ontario, but I should know that. I'm close enough. Excuse me while I have a lozenge because of all the talking. Okay. So this is the seam right here that I started to sew and went, oops, nope, don't sew that one. So we gotta pop that open. Which you do with one of these. This is the failure stick. This is a seam ripper. Oh, you know what? It's probably, I didn't go that far. This is probably fine. I'll take it down to there. I'll just leave it. You want to go smoke a dart? Yeah, if anybody asked me that, I probably would not assume they were talking about a cigarette. You know, it was created so cats can spread their influence. It's true. All right, trimming off the seam allowance, which thankfully is easy, provided that you do not cut your stitches. Joe is better than what they call them in England. That's true. Well, I mean, like the etymology of that word. I mean, it means a bundle of sticks, right? Like that's what that word means. So it makes sense. It didn't become a slur until later, but that's how language evolves, and that's why we change our language. Ironically enough, you know what else means a bundle of sticks? A fasces, as in fascism. Isn't learning fun? Just another lighthearted puppet stream. Okay, seam allowances are trimmed. Just cleaning up the threads. And yes, Jimmy, you reminded me you're still here. I'm aware of it. All right, so there we go. We are all trimmed up. So this is, for the moment, putting it aside because we're going to do the arms. You know, everyone's favorite part, the arms. Let's go to the top cam. So I'm going to do these in fleece rather than fur for a number of reasons. And I'm going to do them in green fleece just because, you know, it's a green puppet. I could do them in a different color. This is a tricky one because if I were to do them in a complementary color, is at the body. So this is the body and head. This is the skin. So this is the body and head all in a kind of single. I know it's kind of hard to see. This is the head. That's the body. This is a little round belly. This is the torso. But I like doing it like this just because then I don't have to sew a neck seam. This is all just sort of one single piece. And since it's fur, I mean, you'll see if I turn inside out or right side out. You know, you ain't seeing no seams there, right? This is just the way it is. So it's shaggy. But yeah, this is like the everything but the arms. So we got the green fur. So I want to do the arms in fleece. Now I could. You got some green fleece. We could just do them in green fleece. Or you could get weird. And if I do them in a different color, I'm also going to do like the eyelids, for example, will be in this color. Orange. The orange is kind of good. Hmm. So there's a commission. You folks give you specifics on what they want out of a puppet. So this particular one is not for commission. This is for the shop. But yes, I often do commissions, and people, yeah, do often give me like specifics. I try to limit it to patterns I already have because that way it cuts down on prototyping, because that's a very time-consuming process, and therefore time is money, right? So I try to keep my costs down. So if it's something that I already have patterns for, like if they say, you know, I want a live hands furry monster in this color, that kind of thing is no problem. It's when they have very specific design requirements that I don't already have a pattern for. That's when it can get a little bit much. So I do try to avoid those. But I still do plenty of custom work as well. So this particular one is not a custom job. This is just me building whatever I feel like building and putting it up on the shop. But yeah, I also do commissions as well. In fact, I'm working on securing a commission that we may start next week, but we'll see. So I kind of like the orange, actually. What is live hands? So like Fozzie or Cookie Monster, it's where, you know what, I'll demonstrate. I'll show you how I'll demonstrate. I like getting questions. This is good. This is from Odecast, by the way. I know the rest of the chat isn't seeing this. So this one's going to be a rod arm. And so a rod arm puppet. Well, let me see. I'll see if I can find a rod arm puppet around here. Can I find a rod arm puppet? Oh, possibly. There might be one or two. So you may recognize this character. This is a rod arm. As you can see, we've got arms on rods. So, I gotta go. Hi, Ann. We are making a Bleakbeck furry rod arm monster. So this one that I'm working on is going to be a rod arm. But a live hands, you may be able to guess what a live hands is based on that description. But a live hands, oh, it's a little bit much. Who's that weird lizard on your arm? I know, right? This is Frankie. Hey everyone, how you doing? Frankie is a live hands. What? What are you talking about? I did not agree to this. But yeah, so that's a live hands puppet. And as the name implies, their hands are actually sleeved and the performer performs the arm. There's the cat. There's a cat in the room. Who let the cat in here? So, there we go. There's the answer to your question. That's the difference between a rod arm and a live hands puppet. So, there you go, Ozone. Hello, Jimmy. There's chaos. It's just chaos in the shop today. Oh, Frankie is not going back on the stand. His neck is all twisted up. I'll fix it later. Stay on the stand. So, yeah, there we go. The Swedish Chef is the ultimate live hands puppet. It's true because there's literally it's just naked human hands. Do you know why they did it like that? Because he was often working with food and things. They didn't want to get it all jammed down into fabric or foam or whatever, so. You're welcome, Ozone. No problem. Okay, so. I think I am going to go for the orange. Yes, Jimmy. I'm trying to get through a whole sentence and the cat's yelling at me. What else is new? Yeah, I am going to go for the orange. And we'll do the eyelids out of the same orange as well. That'll kind of tie it all together to unify it. I love the Swedish Chef as well as Bunsen and Beaker. So Bunsen and Beaker are both live hands. What got you into puppet making? It's not puppeteering, right? That's controlling the puppet. So puppeteering, yeah, puppeteering is performing the puppet. Puppet building is making the puppet. I do both. I'm better at building than I am at performing. I'm an amateur performer, but a professional builder. It's a long story. Actually, if you go to, I don't think I have these on PeerTube, but if you go to the YouTube channel, operationpuppet.com has all the links. If you go to the YouTube channel, I have a vlog where I talk about my entire history about puppetry and puppet building and that whole kind of thing. It's a long story. It would take a long time to tell it on stream. Where there is an old vlog where I talk about where all this came from. So if you go to the YouTube channel, it's on there. We watch at your leisure. Hi. Yeah, I can't make a move without consulting Jimmy here. I need to get a pattern. I'm going to stand up. Is that okay? James Tiberius Cat. Okay, let me see here. So, yeah, I think these colors are going to work. Let me just get my arm pattern here. If I can find it. Of course I can't find it. Why would I be able to find anything? I'm on stream. Not like I could have prepared for this. Here we go. And of course, this will jam down in there and fold it up. And here we are. Okay, there's my hand pattern. Okay, so the way that I usually do my fleece arms, if I'm not going to hand sew them, which I am not, that's an expensive request because hand sewing hands is a lot. So I take the fleece, fold it in half, making sure the stretch is going horizontally. Lay it out on the table. I have to stand up for this bit. Phoebe, how do I store my patterns? I'm so disorganized. So I have about 1,000 of these. Those manila envelopes. A lot of my patterns, most of them in fact, start out as a digital file. They start out as a vector, and then I cut them out in cardstock. I really like using cardstock, just because you can trace against it really easily. And then I print them out, cut them out, and store them in these manila envelopes. I got a whole rack of manila envelopes over here that are the library at Alexandria kind of thing. That's where all my patterns are. I started out with one of these little folder things. This got to be full and useless pretty quickly because the patterns got bigger than would fit in here. So big manila envelopes is my solution to storing patterns. Leia, Don Saleen was the main puppet builder for the Muppets through the 60s and 70s. Yes, and he never performed. Still hugely important. Jim Henson, the Jim Henson bench was actually commissioned by Jim in honor of Don. You are correct. Don is also one of my big influences. I always cite Don Saleen whenever I talk about design. Don was a master of simplicity, of like boiling down an element to his absolute basic form and yet still retaining all of the personality, right? It's a minimalist approach. What's the benefit of hand sewing something versus machine sewing? So machine sewing is fast and the stitches are very strong, but they're also almost impossible to seam blend. Where you could like have the seam, you could never make an invisible seam completely invisible. There's a whole myth around that. But when you machine stitch something, and the reason that we use stuff like fleece, which has like a big plush pile texture to it, is so we can seam blend. We can take those fibers, pick them out of the seam, and then you can make the seam less visible. So hand sewing, you have more control and you can seam blend. Whereas on a machine stitch, it's almost impossible to seam blend. It's just all the fibers get jammed down in there. And it's because of the way that you can stitch on a machine versus hand. That's the big advantage. So something like hand stitching is always visually better. Machine stitching is always faster and stronger. That's the quick elevator pitch answer. Oh no, Leia's baiting me. Hey, but Kevin, what about the magical Henson stitch, which is a real thing that actually exists? I swear I'm going to do that video. I have, see this? This is a teleprompter. I haven't even opened it yet. I bought this specifically because I'm going to do the video where I talk about the history of the myth of the Henson stitch. I'm doing it. I just need to find the time, but this is my commitment to making the Henson stitch video. There's a whole thing. I'm gonna make people mad. I don't care. Okay, here we go. We are making our arms. So this is folded in half, but I just put some clips along the top just to hold it in place. This is where I use clips on fleece, so I'm doing something like this. And then I'm going to get a marker that is a slightly darker color than what I am drawing against. How about this one? This looks good. And just gonna trace this out. I gotta stand up for this because I can't see it. Also, my eye is watering because allergies. Okay, so making sure that the stretch is going horizontally, and it's important. You don't want the stretch going along the length of the arm. You don't want the arm, when you pull on it, you don't want the arm to stretch out like Stretch Armstrong. And because I'm going to be tracing this on the machine, you need to leave enough of a seam allowance, as it were, so you can get through here. Now this pattern I usually use for fur, which is why it's all flat on this side, because then I mirror it. I'm not going to need to do that in this case, but if you were wondering why is this all flat here, that's why. Yeah, one of the things I want to talk about in the Henson stitch video is like, why do people feel the need to cling on to that particular story so much? Like, to the point that people will get mad when you point out that, like, no, it's not actually a thing. And even if it were, you know, it wasn't invented by Jim Henson, and it's a known thing that's been around for a long time. It's a quilting stitch. People just need to believe in magic, I guess. I mean, Jim did enough amazing things. You don't need to ascribe to him supernatural powers. All right, there we go. So in order to save space, we do it like this. The old yin and yang. We've come full circle with Stretch Armstrong. Yep, that's true. The reason I marked here and here is this is what's going to stay open, so I can put the insert in there. And one thing I'll point out before we take this to the machine, I'm going to switch out the thread too. which I wouldn't do if I had used green. Oh well. So, let's mark. These are kind of, these can move around. So I didn't even leave enough of a gap that you can put the insert in here. So if you look at, the fingers have these kind of blobby bits on the end, right? They're kind of got a little suction cuppy kind of thing. Whereas the inserts do not. The inserts are just thin. And the reason for that is because this is going to be much easier to get in here. What I do, if these had a big blobby bit on the end, getting it through the fleece and through this narrow channel, all this foam would just crush down into nothing. So what I do is I make the fingers of the internal structure thin, and then I'll put some stuffing in here first to sort of flesh that out, and then I'll put the insert in, and you get sort of the best of both worlds. This stays uncrushed, but you also get the fleshed out full bulbous bit on the end there. So that's why that's like that. It's a problem that needed to be solved, because I used to do the fingers with the bulbous bits on the foam, and it just failed every time in a very bad way. So what I do is I'll take it down to sort of see where, you got to make sure you've got no wrinkles in the bottom here. Let's get bigger shears. And I'm going to cut across, leaving quite a bit of an allowance. And before we do anything else, we're going to clip this together just to make sure it doesn't move around. Leia, why did I never think to put stuffing in first? I know, right? It's the hardest thing to try and stuff a finger in a, in a hole like that, where you're putting when you're putting a wide thing through a narrow thing. It's not going to work well. So that was my solution. There may be better ones. I mean, the better one is to just not do this on a machine and to just like ladder stitch it right side out, and you're just putting it around. That is the actual solution. However, this saves time. Oops, I want to cut my pattern. Okay, so now that we've got to this point, in order to make my life a bit easier, I'm also going to cut this in half and do each arm separate. Make sure we're not folding that over. We want to believe that Henson was a magic man who came from the heavens to create our childhood, rather than the reality that our heroes are, in fact, just people. It's true. I'm also wary of the single visionary narrative, right? It's never that simple. I like to think of it like, yes, Jim was basically the sun that everybody orbited around, but the totality of it was everybody's creativity together. Like, the Muppets wouldn't be the Muppets without Frank Oz and Jerry Nelson and Don Sahlin and Carolee Wilcox, and there's so many people that went into making that thing great, to then lay it at the feet of one quote unquote visionary is disingenuous to everybody else who worked on it, right? Like, Jim definitely needs credit, but so do everybody else. Okay. Thanks for the tips on the hands. You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. Oh, that's what you're here for. I was wondering. Yeah, well, this is the thing. This is why I do this kind of thing, is because I've figured out, just because I've been doing it long enough now. I've figured out solutions to problems that other people are probably just encountering. So, and also sometimes I don't have a solution and other people will, and so we can talk to each other and actually communicate like people should. All right, so we are almost ready to go to the machine again. So this is more than I need. You know what? I'm going to turn that off. I kind of misjudged the spacing on this. This is too much. You want to leave enough, but you don't want to leave too much. Too much gets in the way just as much as it's not enough. You're saying greatness does not exist in a vacuum. Surprisingly enough, no. I mean, there are definitely, you know, catalysts and people who start things and who have moments of inspiration and all that stuff, but like there's nothing like that that exists without a lot of people working on it. We so want to believe in the kind of savior, chosen one kind of myth that you kind of devalue other people's work, right? Puppets and philosophy, that's what you're here for. Okay. Gotta get the orange thread. Whoa. Heavy duty machine, and it really shows. I guess we'll go back to the close-up cam. Where are we at? This. There we go. Let me just change the thread out here. Orange, huh? I have some dark orange. I don't know if I have any light orange. Thread. Let me see. I'm gonna say no. Apparently, I do not. So that leaves us with a bit of a conundrum because, so here's, what camera should we use? Let's do this. Here's the orange we're using. It's actually a little bit brighter on the camera than it is in real life. And here's the thread. That's not too bad, actually. Because on camera, that does kind of vanish. I will go with it. What the heck? Don't overthink it. We got one pro philosophy vote from Honecast here. You got it. It's not like I'm gonna stop. Where are my there? My bobbins, and of course the camera is pointing nowhere near where I wanted to. There you go. Bobbins. Sherry bobbins. What time is it? Good heavens! Wow, we're getting up there. We're almost at time. I don't think there's enough thread on this bobbin, but let's find out. Only one way to find out. Can't find the beginning of the thread. There it is. Now the fun part. There we go. That's my metric. I'll be too old to build puppets when I can no longer thread the needle without assistance. That's when it's time to retire. Okay. Ozoned on Owncast. Growing up, it's always seemed like sewing was a woman's thing. I don't have a sewing machine, but sometimes I sew holes in socks or shirts, or whatnot for myself and the kids. It's actually quite relaxing. Absolutely, sewing, particularly hand sewing, is like that's the point. Whenever I'm doing hand sewing for puppet building, I kick back, I put on a podcast or some music I want to listen to. It is the relaxing part of the puppet building experience. I love hand sewing. It's great. Okay, here we go. This is less relaxing because you're using a big loud machine, but hand sewing is incredibly relaxing. I love it. Okay, here we go. This is the slow part. You gotta stop, turn, do a couple of manual stitches. The sheet awful goes too fast to turn it. If you're quick, sometimes you can get it. For a really sharp corner like this, you gotta do it. You gotta do it manually. It doesn't help that this machine really wants to go. It really wants to go fast. So trying to get it to go slow enough to do this is a challenge. You gotta really, the trigger, or the pedals on a hair trigger, it's just like, you touch it and it goes. Hand sewing curly, you're right. The worst is when I'm doing this and I've got a good pace going and it's going slow enough, and then my foot slips and it hits the pedal and suddenly goes and then takes off. That's happened more than once. You got to be careful, because if you go too fast on the turning, then you get corners. And most figures don't have corners. Okay, so that's where the gap for the insert goes. So what I do is lift the needle, lift the foot. I don't take it out. I just move it along where it goes back. Back stitch that a few times and then just keep going. And that's one. Did the bobbin last? Yes, it did. Will it last for another? That's the question. Okay, well, let's put this aside. We'll trim it up in a bit. Hopefully we'll get through this before it's time to go. There's a full-length stream this time. It's good there's people here. Oh boy. That got a little too carried away. Easy there. Come on. Look, sometimes it helps the machine if you talk to it. Check the bobbin. Yes, okay, we still have. I don't want to do this and find out that like half of it has to be redone. I don't know if you can see this. What I do sometimes if I've got a lot that's kind of at the corner of the machine here, you kind of roll it up and you curl it up so you can maneuver the fabric around. It's a little bit awkward sometimes when you're doing something like this that you're tracing a pattern. You can run a room. No doubt. Come on. All right, there's the gap. Whoa. Red caught a little bit. It's fine, everything's fine. Look, Ma, no hands. That's another tip for the sewing machine. I don't know if you're used to a sewing machine or not, but like you don't want to push too hard or pull too hard. You just want to kind of guide it gently. You don't ever want to like be shoving the fabric through or pulling it out. Let the feet that are the claws that are grabbing the fabric on the machine, let that do the work, and you're just kind of guiding it. Needs a light touch. Okay. And now that that's over with, the light's moved. It actually looks good now. Nobody wants an overexposed Kevin. Trust me. Wow. Okay, we're pretty much at time here. So the next thing to do is I'm just taking the clips off. I'm going to cut these out, and then I'm going to do the mouth plate, which is a lot of hand sewing. So we're definitely not doing that on stream, and we're at time anyway. Wow. Good stream, y'all. Thank you for showing up. It's encouraging. It's definitely more fun for me to do a stream when there's actually people here. I know I keep saying that numbers don't matter, and I try to keep that in mind, of course, that like, you know, sometimes the numbers are going to be up, sometimes they're going to be down. As far as I'm concerned, everything I do now is archival. This is the thing I'm going to be doing anyway, and this is the stuff I'm leaving for posterity. This is my body of work. And whether people are watching right now or not, doesn't matter. But it still kind of does. It's always nicer when there's people here. So I appreciate all of you. Yes, even you. Okay, that's it. I'm going to stop babbling now because I got to wrap this up and then go for lunch. And then I got a puppet to take to the post office. So be going for a nice little walk. Anyway, thank you everybody for hanging out, doing the thing. This weekend, we are recording a podcast. There will probably be more Frankie play. There will, of course, be more quick vlogs. I'm going to do my plan for the quick vlog plan is to do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That may change, but we'll see. That's because they're super quick and easy to do. So somebody will be, probably be Murray, I think, this Friday with the quick vlog about what's going on, what are the weekend plans for Operation Puppet. And yeah, so stay tuned for that, etc. OperationPuppet.com, all of the links. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Pinecone. Thank you, Leia. Thank you. Names, all the names. Joe, that's I couldn't remember the name Joe. I need more coffee. I'm gonna go. Have a good, oh, I fixed this, by the way, so this should be the correct text the first time I press the button. Here we go. Thanks everyone. Talk to you later.